Hello everybody, and welcome to Cosplaying Around. See, I said I'd still be around. I'm just have horrible ADHD and can't seem to focus on anything that I need to focus on. Anyway, DragonCon was recently. Was recent? Anyway, DragonCon recently happened. Was it about a month ago now? Oh yeah, no. I have not been able to focus at all. So I was going to talk a little bit about DragonCon. DragonCon is super cool. It's one of the... I believe it's actually the biggest general, fantasy sci-fi convention. At least I know it is, on this side of the American United States area. So... it's, you can imagine it's very interesting. DragonCon is very unique in the sense that it encompasses sci-fi, fantasy, there are anime elements, there's, steampunk, there's everything. You'll find anything there. There's just, if you feel like cosplaying as that, it's there. And even if it's not there already, you can make it there, and it's perfectly fine. It's very interesting in that sense. I mean, any convention can be that way, but if you go to an anime convention, you're generally going to want to be more anime-oriented. You can see a lot of American cartoons mixed in, depending on what's popular at the time, but you're not going to see quite as many, pure fantasy elements in there. You'll see some, but you don't see as many. If it is a personal OC, then you might see more fantasy stuff, but it's still very anime biased. Whereas at DragonCon, it could literally be anything. That's always cool. Now, of course, if you do something more obscure, you run the risk of people not recognizing who you are, but quite frankly, for me personally, if you're cosplaying just for people to recognize who you are, you're probably cosplaying for the wrong reasons. I never give a crap if anyone recognizes who I am, because the fact is that I cosplay a lot of things that nobody recognizes. DragonCon is immense. It occurs in downtown Atlanta and spans over 5 hotels now? I'm not entirely certain. It also rents out the America's Mart, which is where their gaming area is now, as well as their dealer's room. The dealer's room is a very misleading name at this point. When I first started going to DragonCon, there were 2 dealer's rooms, and they were in the Marriott. Now the dealer's room is, and Artist Alley combined, is 3 stories worth of shopping. It's a little bit insane. The new venue is great, though, because it's much easier to navigate. It's much cleaner because the aisles aren't kind of wibbly-wobbly floating around. Now, where the dealer's room used to be is where they had the gaming. And without all of the booths inside of it, you can see exactly why all of the aisles were funky, because there's giant columns everywhere just screwing everything up. DragonCon's kind of like a big family. It's hard to meet somebody there that is not, a okay person, I'm not gonna go ahead and assume everybody's a good person, especially because I witnessed somebody table flip, in the gaming hall really late at night. Some dude came over, just ran in, flipped the table in the middle of these guys' Magic game, and the table actually smashed one of the guys in the face. And he was bleeding from his mouth. He went to the bathroom, and I think he said that he was okay afterwards, but they're picking up everything, and it was just ridiculous. But that's one of the few bad things I've personally seen. I mean, stuff happens. There's been some incidents in the crowds of the parade in particular, but overall, it's a pretty good environment, and it's pretty cool because, like I said, you can do anything. You can plan absolutely anything for DragonCon, and it's cool no matter what. I mean, we did cosplays from Wakfu this year, which isn't very well known, and people recognize it. I mean, mostly people recognize Rubelax, the sword, more than our cosplays, but it was still pretty cool. So, I mean, I recommend people to DragonCon all the time. If you're new to conventions, really, I think it's kind of better to start with a smaller one that's a little bit more particular about what interests you. So if you're not a panel person, there's still tons of stuff to do. Just absolutely tons of stuff. It's, it is pricey. It can be cheaper depending on where you go. We stay in a host hotel, so it is a bit more expensive. If you're purchasing tickets now, that's going to be significantly cheaper than it is closer to. And there are, like I said, the hotels in the surrounding area that do offer a con rate, or even if it's not a con rate, it might be a hotel that's a little bit cheaper by nature. And it's within walking distance if you're willing to drive, which I don't really recommend, or, take a taxi or the bus or a shuttle or an Uber or something, then you can go further out and get even cheaper hotels. The first year that we went, we actually stayed at my aunt's house and drove every day. That kind of sucked, but it really wasn't that awful. I just didn't know better yet, really, because I had gone to one convention before that and I only went for one day. I was in my costume for almost 24 hours because I left that morning in the costume. Then we stayed at the convention for basically as long as we could, and then we drove over to a friend's house, which was still like an hour away from the convention, to sleep for the night before going home. So I really just didn't know better. So driving to and from Dragon Con really wasn't that big of a deal. The inconveniences did hit me at one point when I really wanted to change my costume and I couldn't. But once you get used to staying in a hotel where you can go and do things and then come back, it's super hard to be okay with driving to the convention. So, the long and the short of it is, because I really do love Dragon Con, and I don't personally find a lot of cons to it unless you get really easily overwhelmed, or if you want something that's more focused on a specific interest. It's a great con. I mean, it's one to try if you've always wanted to. You'll meet a lot of cool people. I'm not super social. I still met a lot of cool people. I cosplayed as silly things. I cosplayed as Jacksepticeye. I cosplayed as Eva from Wok Fu. I did a cosplay of my cat. And then I didn't even wear my fourth costume because I really just felt like lounging around. It's just, it can be the environment that you want it to be. And that's what's neat. I mean, it can be, you can make it a experience of running around and doing everything, or you can be chill and hang out in the gaming room and play board games all day. I mean, we were approached, somebody wanted us to help demo a game. We decided not to because we really just wanted to play amongst ourselves, but it was pretty cool. I mean, if you're into that sort of thing, there's always opportunities for that, and there's loads and loads of werewolf. So, I think it's a convention that has something for everybody. If you have a crowd anxiety, it might be a little more difficult. I recommend being a little bit prepared. I don't travel without somebody with me, personally. I don't have as bad a crowd anxiety there as I could, because at this point I'm so used to the hotels that I'm pretty confident in finding my way back to where I want to be. But I still try not to go too far on my own. So, yeah, I mean, I love conventions, and this one is no different. We'll be attending it for the foreseeable future. And it's just a really fun experience. So, I mean, if you've ever been interested, go check it out. I don't think you'll regret it.